Hey guys, okay, so it's been a few months at least, I think. I've been going through, I've had a lot of fun experiences that I just kind of wanted to share. The energy has been weird, and my nervous system is just going back and forth, and it's really weird. I'm going to be all over the place with this video. I guess that's one problem with not posting too much is now I'm going to try to jam everything in this one video, and that's not something I'm good at. I get lost in my head with words, and it's just not going to come out well. So there'll probably be a lot of cutting in this one, but we'll see how it goes. But so I did go to a Kundalini live event a couple months ago. It was the beginning of August up in Canada. And I'll go into the details about that and how that went. And it was amazing. The people there were great. I'm getting so many messages through that experience, plus leading up to I'm going to this year's the end of this year is kind of a travel year. I had not done any traveling for the past 5 years or so, for the most part, other than work and an occasional family visit. But I'll be going to Egypt in about a month, less than a month now, in November, and the group that I'm going with they're pretty amazing. The messages and downloads that are coming in. We're doing a lot of regressions, and it's just it's really exciting to kind of work with this energy, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what's going to occur over there. The main message is, as far as a collective energy that I'm seeing, is open communication without the judgment, without critical, harsh judgment, just taking everything that you can in, whether you agree with it or not. And I think we do that as a collective energy before these sites kind of open up and start opening up to the world and accessing the energy within the sites. But it's really up to the collective to do it first. And for me specifically, that everything that I get correlates with my specific journey. And I can go into detail with so many different things. But communication is my biggest fear. I guess it's my biggest thing that I have the most trouble with. I can't get words out correctly. It's so crazy to have such a big fear over something, but then not really be afraid of anything else, but have this one thing that I'm afraid of be so impactful. And all my life I've avoided it, which has made me very calm. I am a very calm person my entire life, but that's only because I've avoided social interaction. Obviously, you can't avoid it completely, but I stick to myself and just stay relaxed. And that's just kind of how my life had been up to this point, up to the past few years at least. But this whole thing for me it's very connected to the Kundalini and the rising of specifically the feminine energy. And it's interesting because just to give a quick recap of my healing progress with type 1 diabetes and what's been going on. My very first Reiki session at the end of 2022, it was just kind of briefly mentioned that, hey, I might want to look into getting more in touch with my feminine energy. And we all have masculine, feminine energy. It's feminine is creative, going with the flow. Masculine is more wanting to have control over certain things, and I've been in my masculine energy my entire life. And for me, it's mainly because I have a kind of a fear of the feminine energy, and mainly because I have a fear of the distorted feminine, but that it makes me not trust really anything with that. Nothing against women, but the reason I'm bringing that up is it's funny because as a kid I was certainly very, very I'm nervous around everybody as far as social situations goes, but women I was more nervous around, certainly. But the past few years I've been surrounded by women, which is interesting. It's just it just naturally occurred that way. Obviously, getting into this healing aspect of things and the spiritual healing, it is being led by women, which is wonderful. So it makes sense that's who I'm working with. And then outside of that, even just in my own area, joining, starting to do yoga out of nowhere. At least for me, it was just kind of random, but it correlates with the process that I'm going through, and that is mostly women. So I definitely, without even trying to, it just started happening, and it happened along with more so getting in touch with the feminine energy within and trying to create more and trying to go with the flow, and at least facing that fear, facing the social fears and all of that. And it's been difficult. So I starting this YouTube is not something I ever thought I would do, and especially putting my face on camera and talking about things that I knew nothing about over 5 years ago. That might sound crazy. It's definitely a something I'm not comfortable doing, but it's interesting. When I said my nervous system is going crazy, it's almost like reverting back to when I was a child, and it's like it's giving me a second chance to or another chance to approach it in a better way and actually face the fears now. And what I mean is that there's literal conditions coming up that I hadn't had since I was a kid, and they've been gradually happening more and more. My body as a kid in social situations, I would shake like I was freezing. The temperature would be perfectly fine, and I would shake at uncontrollably. I couldn't control it, as if I was cold. And that has been happening lately. It happened at the Kundalini event, and I'll go into that. This is probably going to be a long video. And it happened actually even just before getting on this video. I was even shaking at the beginning. It's so small, shiver shakes. It's not noticeable, but it's just that your nervous system, my nervous system, reacting to that. Same thing with the video I made a few months ago with my face getting red. That hasn't happened since I was a kid. One thing, now this has been going on for years now, since 2021. My knee. Let's see, how's this bump here? Now this is a self-diagnosis. It's called Osgood-Schlatters disease. It's interesting that they call it a disease, but looking into it, it makes sense. But it's really just, it's not a bone. It feels like it's bone. It's hard, but it usually only happens to kids when they're going through a growth spurt. And if they're physically active playing sports, their muscles, tighten more. So as their, thigh bone, as my thigh bone grew during my growth spurt, the thigh muscle tightened, and it pulled on the tendons in the knee, and it pops this little bone. It's not a bone, I forget what it's called, but it's at the top of the shin, and it pops it out. And it usually heals itself, and that I remember having that, and I had that around the same time I was diagnosed with diabetes as a child. and it usually goes away. From a kid, it went away from me. I never even went to the doctor for it. At least I don't think. I may have complained about it just because it did hurt a little bit. It's not too painful. It bothers me when I run, more so with like squats and things like that. But having it as an adult is very uncommon, and I've had it now for it's been like 4 years now, maybe even more, longer. And what's really weird about this is back in 2021, I had a tarot session online, and I don't remember much from that session. The only thing that stood out was that she said I had a lot of healing energy around my legs, and that was at the exact same time when this knee issue was occurring. And for whatever reason, it makes no sense that this is why this is what stuck with me, but in my mind, it came through as my knee will heal alongside diabetes healing for me. Why would I jump to that conclusion? It makes no sense. That's just the message I got when I was told that. She didn't say anything about that. She just said I had healing energy around my legs. That's the only comment she made. So why I would jump to that conclusion, it made no sense to me at the time. Then years later, and as I'm also getting more involved with Kundalini energy, the left side of the body, which this is, I don't know if I'm flipped on the camera, but it is my left knee. The left side of the body is the feminine side. And specifically the left knee, from what I've seen other people talk about, has to do with creativity and a block in your creative, in your creativity. And that has been a huge block of mine. I'm slowly getting into it, but it's difficult. It's difficult for me to flow. I signed up for a painting class this year, haven't been doing it. I can't stand it because, and it proves my point, I hate painting because I can't control the bristles. I stink at it. I don't know where they're going, and I can't flow with it. It is so frustrating for me. I enjoy drawing, but not even, it's hard to say I enjoy it. Currently, there's a weird block. I don't know. It's very difficult. But out of anything, I always was drawn to drawing as a child because I at least have control over the pencil, and there's no like crazy movement with it, and I like that. So I do that more now, and I have gotten back into art the first time since I was a child. But anyways, I've heard people talk about unblocking that creative block and it leading to their left knee being healed. So that is one message that I've gotten over and over. I'm very stubborn with it because I've just not followed through. But just pointing that out, and I need to. So back to the feminine energy. First, want to say how grateful I am for it. Just everybody I've worked with has been so loving and helpful. Just to give a quick recap in case you haven't seen, I don't even know what video, it's probably my very first video, and I certainly wrote about it on the website, but my very, so I had that Reiki session I talked about, and then a month later I had a more in-depth session that lasted a few hours, and I had a memory come up from when I was a baby, and that, and one thing I don't think I mentioned in the first video talking about this was that I also, you're connected with your higher self I was during the session, and you do kind of a Reiki scan of your body, see if there's any blockages or entities, and I noticed an entity in my root chakra that we cleared during that session, which was very important. And that led, just to give a brief recap, that led the following 5 days after that were like, it was something I've never experienced before, as far as the love that I felt that was just pouring into me. And it was all, it's indescribable. It was every single emotion. I felt every single emotion with just an acceptance of it all. It was just pure, unconditional love of everything. And I was breaking down and crying. And speaking of tears, oh my gosh, I've been crying like crazy lately. It's ridiculous. But I was crying all the time throughout those 5 days. But it was just it was blissful, but it was amazing. I can't really, it's hard to put into words. And then on that 5th day, the mucus started, and I've shared pictures of that. Won't share them here again. I'll get through a video without sharing some gross pictures. But the mucus, it's been like 3 gallons over the following 2 years. So from end of 2022 all through the end of 2024, it was a daily occurrence. So much mucus just coming out of me into the toilet, out of the reverse end, by itself, just pure mucus for 2 years. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before. Like, not that that's like a goal for people to have, but I'm just saying, like, what is that? That by itself to me is a miracle. And then in 2024, I see my C-peptide levels starting to increase. Now this year, it slowed down considerably, the mucus, and well, before I get to that, back to that session. That I didn't know it at the time, but that to me was a Kundalini awakening, that allowed my Shakti to rise and start. And especially that entity release allowed the release of that negative energy in my gut. You know, I might not have the best words to kind of summarize everything that's going on. I don't fully understand everything. I don't know. But that was the start of this for me. Well, I started years before that, as far as my setting the intent to heal this, but this was the start of at least the Kundalini for me, of that rising. And it just correlated with tapping into the feminine energy. Now, it was about a year later, towards the end of 2023, when I started to actually sign up for some Kundalini sessions, which just involved lying on the floor. And it's similar to Reiki, but it's you know, dancing, listening to music, and just connecting with that energy. And I specifically came across a Reiki facilitator that focused on the Shakti energy, on the feminine side of things. Kundalini, it's both masculine and feminine working together to rise. But I definitely needed to work on the feminine side of things to be comfortable in that flow, which I'm getting used to. So, and I got in touch with somebody who just so happened to, you know, she did some kind of things that were like story based, and she did this Little Mermaid one that I had already connected with a Syrian being that was a mermaid, and I just said yes right away. And not only that, but that specific session and that program that she created had to do with using your voice, which is my biggest struggle. So everything just kind of lined up with that. And that I did the most of the Kundalini sessions throughout 2024. C-peptide continued to rise. And then at 2025 is when I finally came on YouTube with my face. I was making just audio recordings on YouTube, and I was scared. I don't like talking about things before I do them. I know this is possible for everybody, but it's very difficult for me to come out here and talk about something without showing proof. At the time, I had my C-peptide as proof to at least kind of back up some things to show that it was possible. But now My last two tests were still at 0.5. So anybody who doesn't know what that is, 0.5, the C-peptide levels. I won't go into detail on that, but so there's different ways to look at it. At least I'm still producing insulin. Doesn't make sense to me why I'm consistently producing such a low amount. If I'm able to increase it to that, why doesn't it continue to go up? Or why doesn't it, just go away altogether? So I can look at it both ways, but it doesn't, who knows? Who knows? But there's always that plateau, which I brought up last time, as seeing different messages come through, specifically with surfing. Now, with surfing, I finally have been legitimately able to catch a wave, just in case people cared. I have been surfing for the most part, every weekend, going to different beaches. So that's been fun. And I have a very good connection with the ocean. I think at the end of this video, I'll do a quick, few minute, if people will stick around for this, I'll do a quick few minute kind of breath work and meditation with some ocean waves that I like doing when I'm on the ocean. I like doing it, basically you stand and, let the waves come in and just pull, release some energy into the water, staring up at the moon. I love doing that. One quick story I'll share though, that I love getting little messages from, little symbolisms from my experiences with the ocean. But I always like walking at night and down the beach, and I'm aware that there's crabs that come out at night, but I never really see them. So I'm usually just walking in the dark and, there's no fear or anything. I just, maybe if I'm looking on my phone and the light kind of comes on and I might see one, but I don't really pay too much attention to it. But I was walking, for whatever reason, there were a good amount of people out. And so I turned my flashlight on just because as I walked by, I didn't want to scare them just in the dark. So I had my flashlight out on my phone, just shining it and just shining it on the ground, just so they would see me coming up as I passed, just people just out sitting on the beach and around a campfire or whatever. But as I kept the phone flashlight on, there were crabs everywhere. And it got pretty scary. They were, they have that one claw, reaching up, but they were everywhere. I didn't realize how many there were, and maybe it was just the specific beach I was on. But they were going, it's amazing how quickly they pop up and out of the sand. But I don't know if they feel my vibration coming, but they pop out and they scurry across right under my feet. And it's just constant. There were so many of them, and it just kind of symbolized the idea to me where you can ignore it. I had walked on the beach at night all the time and wasn't afraid of anything because I didn't see them. And I turned the light on. I shine the light on in the darkness, and now I see it, and now I'm afraid. Right now I'm a little bit afraid. There was, my nervous system was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to step on one, but they're going to pinch me. Worst case is I get pinched. Oh well. And who knows? Maybe the fact that I thought in the past that I've stepped on a sharp seashell, maybe a crab did pinch me, but it's still little. Who cares? You're not really. It's not really something to be afraid about. But seeing them all scurry across and have that pincher, it initially puts fear in you. But I kept the light on just to see them, and your nervous system reacts. Now you're shining the light on this, something that you didn't see before, and it reacts. Now I could have said fuck this and got off the beach and not dealt with it, but you this wasn't a huge fear, so I kept walking and shining the light on it, and you eventually get used to it. Your nervous system calms down the more you face it. And as they were scurrying by, they would scurry right under my feet, and I had trust that, oh well, that's fine. They're likely more afraid of me than I am of them, of course. And worst case, they pinch me if I step on them, and that's fine. But after, it took probably 15 minutes of shining the light and seeing them all cross by to fully just finally just relax and just say, it's okay. I'm back to having absolutely no fear now. The same way when I was completely in the dark, now I'm shining the light, seeing this, and it just takes some practice, takes some getting used to for your nervous system, and now I'm fine. It's perfectly fine. And then once I got to that point, then one bigger crab seriously stopped like right underneath my foot and didn't move as I stepped. And of course I like hop, and like, again, a little shooting, like quick fear popped in my body, and made me react because I don't want to step on it. I of course still don't want to get pinched, but it just happens that way. But even that, let's say they do pinch you a lot, like, you could also get used to that. You could get used to stepping on crabs every 10 feet and getting pinched a little bit, and just then being okay with that. You can be okay with this fear all the time. Like, it's just getting used to it. So that's a message that came in pretty strong for me, especially with communicating. I have a huge fear of it, and it just is going to take practice. It's going to take practice. It's going to take time for my nervous system to get adjusted with doing it. So yeah. Now, one thing I want to share with the Kundalini event experience. So it was seriously like magic. The loving energy that I felt there, that seriously, like, even the love is hard to get used to from a nervous system perspective for me. And it was a huge majority of women, females, at this event. There were 2 male facilitators out of several women, but as far as the participants go, it was largely women. And this was an event in Montreal, and there was training classes. I think a lot of it was for training to be a Kundalini facilitator, which I'm not there yet. I'm just really loving the energy of the activations, and each day there was an actual activation similar to what I've been doing online. Where you just lay down, music's played, and the facilitator, there are multiple facilitators in this live event going around to each person and doing, again, I the only thing I'm trained in is Reiki, and so it is similar to that Reiki energy being passed on. It's just a loving energy that's passed on. So, and it was intense. These sessions were the most intense that I've experienced. And I don't know if it was because it was live and the first time I've done that, or possibly because there were multiple facilitators there, or just the shared collective loving energy that was in the cathedral that we were in. First, I want to talk about the love there and how infinite it was. Like this, so, and the whole tears thing is crazy to me. I cried. This is so embarrassing. So I'm not a crier. I mean, I'm just not, for the most part, most of my life, but I have been the past few years now. On the plane ride home, and I'll get to why, because I'll tell the story, but on the plane ride home from the event, I cried for an hour on the plane by myself, but the plane was full of people. I couldn't stop it. I for an hour straight, I had tears just flowing down my face. Couldn't do anything about it, and I'll get into why. But I'll talk about the event first before I get there. But one of the more embarrassing, although no one approached me on the plane, but I'll get to that. But it's crazy. So the first activation session at the event, it was just a 2-day event, Saturday and Sunday. It was special. My body did shake, cold. Like I felt freezing. The temperature was perfectly fine during the session. It was the love. It was seriously overpowering. It was specifically because it was a feminine energy that I couldn't really handle. Like I'm so. I talked about distorted feminine. That's within me as well. I don't take that as implying that anybody who comes across this, if I have been friends with a woman or in a relationship with a woman in the past, don't think that I'm claiming that they were all distorted feminine energy. That's not what I'm saying. But it is something that I have had experience with. And so, and what I mean by that is conditional love for the most part. There's a lot of things to it, but conditional love is the main thing that I just have trouble with. So feeling like, so it's a confusing energy, I think, for my nervous system to accept. And the masculine comes in and tries to control it. And so and that's what happens when the nervous system goes crazy and I'm shaking, freezing I seriously feel freezing, like I'm freezing and I'm shaking, shivering, and I'm trying so hard to like stop it. Like the masculine side is like trying to like tighten up and stop it. And it was okay that first day, the first session. I was kind of going in and out of that, and dancing and moving and flowing and letting it flow. The second day was, I'm going to say, worse as far as the shaking went, but it was so powerful. And I'm rambling here. I'm sorry, I don't have it all put together as far as where I'm going. But before I get to that, just going back to the love that I felt in both days. So I might as well talk about the second session. And I said infinite love, and infinite as in like unique. I have my eyes closed during the entire session. And I can feel the different energy come by as the facilitators move. Like as a person comes to me and shares their energy, and then moves on to another person, and then a new person comes in. I felt it. I felt like everyone was so loving, and I felt the uniqueness of each love during that. And seriously, just talking about it is just, it's something that I just am not used to. And it's really, really powerful. But the uniqueness, and it's so special because, like I said, my eyes are closed the entire time. And I felt it change. I felt a new love coming in, and then going, and then a new love coming in, and it was so amazing. It was so amazing. And then, and I could even feel like masculine energy come in without them saying anything or doing anything. Like I felt, oh, now this is a masculine energy coming in, and then now later it was confirmed. Because then they start, like, for example, there was a very key moment where, again, it's hard for me to use my voice, especially in a situation like this. But one of the male facilitators started like roaring like a lion, and I joined in, and like the fact that he felt that, and I knew he was there before he even started talking, or not talking, but making any sort of sounds. And I joined in on that because I needed that help. I needed that assistance. And going into this, I felt like I've needed to do this alone. And I still feel so alone doing this, but I'm not. Just the help has been unreal. But yeah, so going to a session like this, dancing on the floor and roaring, screaming at the top of my lungs, and then also bawling my eyes out on the floor. This is a very I'm not embarrassed, but this is a very awkward thing to talk about online. So it's kind of like going from nothing to talking about this stuff is very weird for me. But one very special moment for me was when, like, I could not stop the shaking, the chills, and so I just kind of rolled over in a fetal position and I started crying. I felt there. There's so much shame that I feel from a man's perspective, right? Like, what kind of man am I who's afraid to speak to people? So that's a shame that's been with me forever. So that hit me hard. I don't know, because in that moment, it is my masculine coming in trying to protect myself, but he can't. Like, he's trying to force myself to stop shaking, and that only makes it worse. You have to allow it to happen. That's where the feminine comes in. You have to allow it to flow and feel it. And then someone placed their hand on my back when I was lying on my side, right at my heart. And I immediately calmed down. It was immediate. And it was so special to me, just feeling that connection. So now this is like I said before, where I felt everyone's unique energy, unique love. This specific one, I knew who it was, and this person I've never talked to. I hadn't talked to her. This was the second day event. I hadn't talked to her the entire time. She was online for a few of the sessions that I've attended, and I've never talked direct. Like, we share after the session as a group. We share. So I've heard her speak and she's heard me speak, but we've never talked directly to each other. And I hadn't talked to her at that event yet. And that's the other thing. Before I get to it, like, going by myself. I mean, I'm fine going by myself, but interacting with people is very difficult for me. Like, so it's very uncomfortable. So, but I give myself credit. Again, but there's shame in that. There's shame in giving myself credit for doing something it's come so easily to other people, or even if it doesn't come easily to other people, it's just not as hard. They don't have the fear that I have. It's just not judging, like saying it's easy for other people. I'm just saying it's everyone's different. But yeah, I still have to give myself credit for doing something. There was also an ecstatic dance on the night before the second day, on Saturday night, and I did dance. I danced for at least a couple hours with my eyes closed most, but standing up, dancing, swaying around. I did it, and I felt really good. It was a good dance. It was a long weekend. It was an exhausting weekend, but in the best way possible. But anyways, back to the person who placed their hand on my heart. I felt who it was. I knew who it was. I felt their energy. And at the end of the session, you can kind of share your experience. They passed a microphone around, and I raised my hand, and I took it, and I just talked to, I don't even know, because again, I get nervous and I get flustered. So I said some things. I don't remember exactly what, but I did. All the facilitators were in front of me. At the end, we sat up and meditated. I couldn't stop crying during the meditation when we were sitting up at the very end either. It was ridiculous. It was crazy. But when I had the microphone, I was like, hey, whoever came by and put their hand on my back, thank you so much. And the person who I strongly felt that it was raised, I asked who was that, and she raised her hand, and it was her. And again, I had my eyes closed the entire time. And I know I've talked about in my previous videos the whole 11-11, and out of all people, so my flight the next day, I didn't even know what time really. I knew it was early afternoon, 1 o'clock something, but it ended up being 1:10. And we all went out to dinner that Sunday night. And as I was leaving the dinner, I stopped by to thank her, and it was mentioned that she was also leaving the next day, or I think someone else was telling her that I was leaving the next day. And she said her flight was at 1:10, and I was like, oh. And I didn't know at the time that my flight was at 1:10. I really wasn't sure on the time, but she had a completely different flight than me, same time at 1:10, so 11:11. And so we actually saw each other at the airport. There were only 2 flights out that day at 1:10, international flights out that day at 1:10, and she was on one and I was on the other, and we were able to talk for maybe 20-30 minutes before we left. But that it's those numbers come in, again, just as kind of a reminder for me that yes, that was a impactful and important thing. Don't dismiss it. So, and then on the plane ride home, it was right before the cart came by. I think the drink or snack cart. They were like a few rows ahead of me, and just out of nowhere, I start crying. Not like this loud sobbing or anything, but uncontrollable tears just streaming down my face. Couldn't do anything about it. And then the cart comes up, and I quickly try to wipe the tears, open my eyes, and say no thanks. And then after that, I just closed my eyes for the next hour at least, and there's nothing I could do. I just kept them closed because I didn't want to open it and see if people were staring at me. I would wipe my tears initially, but I just felt like that brought more attention, so I just let them go and just closed my eyes, and my face was soaked. Doing that, trying to stop the cry face, so I'd get that distorted, painful cry face that trying to not look that way, but it just went for an hour. And then even the last hour of the flight, it still would come every 10-15 minutes or so. And it was just this overpowering feeling of both being so grateful of the connections, but also just so sad. I've been feeling my entire life I've been alone and never felt lonely, but I have felt more and more lonely going through this experience and making connections, because it's I feel the love and the energy, which makes me want more connection. And so I'm feeling more lonely now the more connection I make with people, which is just weird. And so after that experience, I know the energy connection that I had was so special. And it's almost like it was more important than the talking, which I didn't do much of, but I did. It's not like I was completely mute the entire weekend. I had conversations with people. But it was nowhere close to the energetic connections that I felt. And so the tears were just kind of reflecting on that, of how powerful it was. But then also it was like, man, why can't I turn that into true communication with words, right? And so, and again, the shame came in, but it was still, overall, it was a mix of both. It was a mix of dual feelings. And overall, though, it was a very good release for me, and just acceptance of it. Like, man, like, it's okay. Like, that energetic connection that I had is really enough. Not saying that I shouldn't continue to work on everything else, but it's something to be extremely grateful for, and it was very, very meaningful to me. And specifically with the feminine energy, it was just special. Again, I'm so grateful for everybody. The feminine energy out there that has been kind of helping me through this. So thank you very much. Yeah, so that was that. What else? I can't remember anything else right now. Like I said, I think I said this, I'm going to Egypt, and so much has come through. We're having a lot of meetings leading up to it. And I probably won't share them in this video. I'll wait to share them in another video. Maybe I'll post another video before I leave for Egypt, or maybe I'll wait until afterwards. But so many very clear messages, and so many like past life things are. It's just, I don't know. Things are really coming through, and it seems very special. A lot of Syrian energy is coming in from Sirius for me, which I had no idea was really strongly connected to Egypt, and that's really the main beings that I have connected to in the past without even knowing it. So one quick comment: I have a freckle pattern on my back that is like the Sirius star pattern. One of them, there's a portion of it that is. It correlates to like the very first video I saw way back. Like, this is back in 2020, I think, before I knew anything about it. It was like the very first video I came across talking about Sirius, and they showed this star, and then like seriously, like the next day, I think this was during like the whole thing that was happening in 2020 where you couldn't go get your hair cut. You couldn't go in places, or I couldn't go into places because you know why. So I cut my hair at home, and so I saw my back in the mirror. I don't think I've ever looked at my back before, but I was cutting my hair and looking at the back of my head, it was like seriously like a day or two after I saw that Sirius video that showed this constellation, and I'm looking at my back, and there's these like 5 dark freckles that are in that pattern. I'm like, holy shit. Now that said, I've seen so many different constellations that don't match that at all, and then I keep forgetting to save the video, but every now and then I'll come across one that shows it's more like a kind of like a Big Dipper, but not the full Big Dipper, just like 4 and then 1 star, a 5th star on the side that kind of looks like a dipper. But I don't really know much about it, but it's just weird that that came in at the same time the whole way back in 2020. That's kind of a side rant, but yeah, a lot of stuff has been coming through. Very excited. So yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. Like I said, I think I'll share, I don't know. I'm thinking about sharing different messages and downloads that I get, specifically leading up to Egypt. So maybe I'll do that before I go, or maybe I'll wait until I have the trip and just wait till I come back to share it all. But I hope everyone is doing well and is getting through this energy as well in the best way possible. So I love you all. Thanks. Oh, sorry. I want to do the quick meditation if you're still around. So I'll just do that here. Okay, so this is just going to be about a 5-minute meditation. But just first, I'll just explain what I like to do, what I've been doing all summer really, is being by the ocean and in the sand is very cleansing. It's just kind of the properties that the ocean has with the salt water and the sand. It just works as a filter. And that is a recent message I got where the message I got was that our hearts filter the water in our body just like the core of the earth does. And I'm not saying that there's water literally physically going into the core of the earth being filtered. It's just from an energy standpoint where the core of the earth is like the heart of the earth, and that love from the core expands out into the water and filters through it, and the water carries it throughout the earth. And it's through love that it gets filtered. So it's not like we're here dumping all of our negative energy into the ocean and just having them deal with it. This is something that we can do internally on our own, but we can work with the earth and the ocean to assist us. So as we do this, let's hold gratitude in our heart for this assistance. And we'll also set the intention that anything that we release is transmuted into unconditional love and sent back to source. So feel free to keep your eyes open during this meditation and watching the waves come in and out. Or if you feel better, you can close your eyes and just visualize standing in the sand with the water coming in up to your ankles, in and out. And what we're going to do is breathe with the ocean tide, with the ocean waves coming in and out. And as they come in, we're going to breathe in the love. And as they go out, we release a long breath. Not because it's negative, just because we no longer need it. So let's just continue with this, breathing in and out. And each time you release, allows you to take in a new breath. No reason to view your inhales as good or your exhales as bad, but you're becoming more conscious and aware of them both. Constantly releasing the old breath to take in the new. This awareness alone might make you feel lighter and freer as you breathe. And maybe something comes to mind that you're ready to release that you've never considered before. The ocean love that you're breathing in is shining a light on something that you've never seen. A protector, an excuse, something keeping you from facing a fear, something that's holding you back. Breathe in the power of the love of the ocean. And breathe out any protectors or distractions that have now come to light that are keeping you from learning more about yourself. hope you all have a great rest of your day or night. Thank you.